Find somebody you like that you trust and have a preliminary conversation because I'm of mindset that not everybody's the same.
Hello, women creating wealth. We have a real treat for you today. You know how I always tell you that if you're going to do short term rentals, it's great to do it in a place where you want to visit. So today, Tia Lilly is with us. She is the founder and broker owner of Property Cape Cod Real Estate. She's a seasoned real estate professional. She's got almost 2 decades of experience specializing in all types of waterfront properties on Cape Cod, including waterfront, water view, lake pond, water, riverfront, and beachfront properties. We have now Tia to educate us on, let's say that I wanted to. First of all, Tia, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate you having me on. So let's dive in. I love
Yes,
this
let's.
topic, my favorite.
And now, so what happens now? Actually, this is a total detour, not where I was going to go, but right
Okay.
now it's September. So do prices sometimes come down when the season sort of is winding down? Do you find that like everybody wants to buy a place at the beginning of the summer or in the spring, and then in the fall, it's like, oh, okay, let's think about something else?
Actually, it's probably the exact opposite of what
Oh.
everybody thinks. So, and now keep in mind, COVID has changed a lot here. It's just changed our whole world, really. But in terms of investment property, waterfront property, and purchasing, and Cape Cod, which is very much a resort destination, not sure how much your listeners know about Cape Cod, but it's just beautiful. And we're known for our beaches and the water. There's just so much to the water here. So, the fall and the winter are the busiest times to purchase a investment waterfront near water view home on Cape Cod.
Interesting. And
It
what sorts
is.
of things? I mean, one thing that pops immediately to mind because I used to live by the ocean is like things like flooding. Like, what are some considerations that people might not think about, might not be aware of when they're looking to buy a waterfront home?
First of all, when you're looking to purchase or even sell for that matter,
Yeah.
it's good. Yeah. So it goes both ways. So it's good to talk to somebody with the experience because it's very different than just buying or selling a traditional home in a neighborhood. But there is a lot of factors to consider. It depends, like you asked me about the buy side and looking at it when people first start thinking about this and they're in the planning stages, it's really important to identify kind of, okay, how do you want to use this investment property? So when I hear investment, I think of a couple different factors, right? First, it's just great from an equity standpoint. You can have fun with it. You can't do that when you invest in the stock market. You can enjoy,
Sure.
it can grow and enjoy it, right? Then comes a lot like of what you do. There's like, okay, now you can have it work for you. You can do short-term rentals with it. And you can do year round, but we will just keep it to short term. It's what's in our wheelhouse. So but yeah, so you can look at it so other people can enjoy it and then the investor can make money on it as well. It's really important, like you hear all the time, location, location, location. When you're thinking about it in the planning stages, it's really important to sit down with somebody experienced to say, okay, where am I going to where's can I get my best bang for the buck? We get a lot of, because I don't know if you knew this or not, but we are in the vacation rental market. So we do short-term rentals and would love to be involved at the beginning in the primary stages, only because people come to us after and we probably wouldn't advise them to purchase that property or
Oh.
yeah, it's okay. We make it work, but if you want to maximize your dollar, look at, like for the Cape, there's so much water here. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's ponds, there's docks, there's beachfront, there's little private beaches, association beaches. So, but people come for the beach for the most part. That's where you really want to focus in on. And you can even get walk to beach too. That could be a great investment as well. Being closer on the beach is ideal.
Did
And
you
that
run
could
into any restrictions? For example, like say you were just getting started, you wanted to maybe buy a condo. Do you run into restrictions with
yes,
associations not allowing? Yeah.
yeah. Condo's probably not the best way to go for that for the if you're going to plan on using it as a short-term rental. And a lot of it is too just looking at how long do you want to hold it for? What are you doing? Because you did ask about, does it have beach rights? Is it just up to a certain part and it's a public beach? I think from investing, anything beach goes and anything on or near water,
Yeah.
there's definitely flood zones and things like that to consider as well. Work on the property. Does it need work? What can I do? What can I not do? Conservation is a huge, huge factor in that whole big picture.
So let's
that
talk
you-
about that a little bit because we didn't even talk too much about conservation land and conservation rulings and stuff like that. How, give me some examples of properties that are affected by conservation and how that would impact the investor.
Well, a lot of desirable investment properties are in conservation land because they're near the water. Anything on near water, even sometimes it's not as obvious that it's near water and it's still in conservation land. So it's not just water driven. So when you're looking at a property in conservation, there's so many factors to consider. Let's use an example of something that's directly on the water, whether it be a dock or a beach. Sometimes conservation will come in many times and say, okay, this is what you need to do every year. You need to plant X amount of certain plants. We're going to come out and inspect them. Or let's say you need to repair a dock or you need to replenish the beach because of erosion. We do have erosion. These factors all need to run through conservation and they all need to be approved and they all need to be recorded. So there's what's called order of conditions. It's really important when selling or buying to know are there any rules that I have to adhere to if I own this property? When selling, most people don't realize they have to close these out. Oh, I repaired my dock or I got approval to do something that's near conservation land. Okay, they approved it. Did it get recorded? Did it go in front of the board? Did it get signed off on? Did you take? Most don't know that. So it's important to look for these factors when buying or selling too. No surprises. You never want surprises
That's
if
for
it can be
sure.
avoided. Yeah.
So a flood, thinking
Flood
about
is
like the flood.
complicated. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and I
complicated.
just think about the expense of floods,
Yeah.
flood insurance. Is there any problem? Have people had problems getting flood insurance lately?
We're not experienced that. I mean, there's a lot of the bigger insurance companies that pull out and they're not around. I know Florida's experiencing that right now from other conversations I had. But we try to do all business local. There's great companies here that understand the market because the Cape is so different from any other part of Massachusetts or the other part of the world. So it really is. There's a lot of ways to insure. If you're paying cash for a property, you do not need that quote unquote flood insurance. It's not to say that you don't want to carry some flood insurance, of course, be
Yeah.
protected, but it's not the mandate that we hear about all the time that really you're only insured for $250,000. So if you're looking at even a 1 million plus house, $250,000 is not a lot. Yeah.
You can damage a house
You can
for a quarter of a million in no time.
yeah, exactly. So it's good to talk to a good insurance agent to make sure you're covered, which we
Yeah.
help our clientele with as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, we're not experiencing that as much as other parts of the country, I would say, at least in my world.
So another question I was thinking of is just about the seasonality. Like a friend of mine, so most of my properties are in the White Mountains, which is sort of a 3-season place, right?
Yes.
People go for the foliage, they don't go in the mud season, but they do go in the winter for skiing and stuff like that. So I feel comfortable, but I also think that in the Cape, the rents are higher, right? When you're doing your short-term rentals, what is the major like calendar for that?
Major calendar, definitely the summer is the height of the
Right.
season.
Yeah.
So that can be 8 to 10 weeks. And it's better when you're in your planning stages to plan on 8. We always go lower and then it's great to make more. The spring is very iffy on the Cape. So it's something to be aware of going in. The fall's beautiful. We're in the fall right now. It's just gorgeous here. It's typically very, very nice in the fall. You get more weekends though, long weekends in the fall here
Yeah.
than
Yeah. It makes
booking out a
sense.
week.
Yeah. So in
So
the summertime, you can expect people would want to be there for the whole week.
for the whole week, we
Yeah.
only rent for a week at a time. But I'm not sure about what's your average for a week that you get typically on a weekly rental where you're at?
Well, I mean, the homes are
Varies, but
smaller, but yeah, so
yeah.
maybe 700 or something like that for a week, or maybe even 1,000, but that's kind of the higher end
Um,
for like a 1-bedroom place.
for that's one bedroom. And that's a lot. When you bring up bedrooms, that's Besides location, that's the next, which I'm
Yeah.
sure it's the same for you, right, Chris? It's bedroom driven. So you
Yeah, it makes a
wanna,
huge difference.
and we have big homes. Like I can give you example of one that we just sold at the end of the last year, almost coming up on a year now. They purchased for investment, and to use it, but they didn't want the responsibility of taking care of the house. So we said, no problem. We'll take care of it for you. Let us know how long you want to come. They didn't come a whole lot, maybe a week or two, and they came off season. We rented that for 4 years for 13,000 a week. Yeah, and now you can go. I mean, on the beach, you could get up to 20,000 for a week. Yeah, just to
Wow.
yeah. Yeah. We have
Yeah.
one house that has a pool that's not on the water that rents for 50, almost 16,000 a week. It's a big house. It's a big house, but
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
is better.
But do you
Yeah.
find any problem with one of the reasons that for my stuff that I wanted smaller properties is because I had one that had 9 beds. It became like a party place and wasn't comfortable with that.
We've had
You have problems with parties
We
and stuff.
haven't. We
No.
really, we am not saying they don't come and they don't have parties. People do, but we've had, because I think the rents are so high,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
not going to
Makes
get
sense. Yeah.
the
You're not getting college kids jumping out the windows drunk. Yeah.
correct,
That's
correct. Because, and that's part of, yeah, exactly. Yeah. When the rents are, and that's why we don't want to have anything be too low. And then we sign leases regardless of what platform they book on. Like
yeah.
I know Airbnbs, they don't have leases or anything, but in order to stay at our house, they do have to sign a lease.
It's perfect because then you've got more legal
Legal
recourse if something
yeah.
should go wrong.
But it
Yeah.
does. It's really been, some weeks it's a lot more work on our cleaners than other weeks, but
Of course.
it balances. In the house, once you see the house after they're done, you would never know there was a party, but it's rare
Yeah.
that we come through that.
It's the clientele is better,
It's
right? So maybe they drip some barbecue sauce on the grill, but they did not trash the place.
the
Like
place.
I had
Yeah.
just a funny, sad story.
Uh-oh.
My New Hampshire place, this kid told me he was renting it by himself. He wanted to work on his doctorate. He said, I'm working on my dissertation. I just want to, come up there to have some silence and peace. Next thing I know, the state police are calling me. The guy had 23 people at this party. And when the police came, because the neighbors naturally called the police, you can imagine it was not, neighbors aren't even close, but they were close enough to hear whatever the heck was going on there. And when the police came, one of the kids tried to jump out the window, which was not actually open at the time.
Oh
So he took
no.
most of the window, the screen, and it was a second floor window and I'm surprised the kid survived. There was rocks down there. I thought, oh my, just like nightmare time. When COVID came, someone wanted to buy it. And I said, yes, take it.
Take it. It's yours.
I'll stick with the small ones,
Oh,
maybe
so
you can
this
fit a
was on a
couple.
bigger house. Yeah, it was on
Yeah, it was a bigger
yeah.
home. And that's just,
Okay.
and unfortunately, because it was less expensive, right? It wasn't as expensive per night. It was not thousands of dollars for the weekend or whatever. It was just hundreds. So yeah, that makes a huge difference. So people the numbers could work then for a very expensive home that you're going to love to have as your second home.
It definitely
Property.
could work. Like the example I was giving you with the 13,000 a week, they bought that for 2.2 million. And it's okay if somebody doesn't have that money to start with.
Right.
It's just a conversation you have up front. But we just sold it they owned it for 4 years and then we sold it for 4.4 million. And they made the
Goodness.
residuals off that was booked solid throughout the entire summer and fall for the most part, some spring. So it is there. I mean, location wise, it's all about the location and the bedrooms in the
Yeah.
bedrooms. But
Well, so if somebody wanted to get started investing in the Cape, is there an entry level position? You have to have 6 figures, or is there a lower, not 6 figures, but 6 zeros, I should say?
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, it's a great question, by the way, but COVID's changed so much. But yes, you can. It's not, if somebody said to me today, hey, I have, let's just say 900,000 and I want to find an investment home to rent and have the numbers work. It can be done. It doesn't mean I could take them out and show them, okay, let's go see, let's go looking all day. It's going to be get ready, get educated, be ready when that opportunity comes along. There's always opportunities. It's just patience. And I say more to people I look with purchasing, more no than yes, this is the right one. So,
Yeah.
and I think, yeah, it's just so important if you really want to maximize value to be in the right one and be patient and wait, not be in a rush. Don't let anybody, there's no urgency. And that's what we do. We're into it for the relationship for the long run, not to sell someone a house that's not going to reach their goal, you know?
Yeah. But T, you bring up a great point because I know that there's, especially with new investors, there's a lot of enthusiasm. And also, we have to do it, right? This is a feeling of urgency, like we have to, the prices are going up. We've got to hurry up and buy something. We've got to find that. And then that's when you can make a mistake. So I really appreciate that you're, holding back your customers, right? You can say yes all by yourself. You need somebody to say, now let's review your goals here. It's really gonna,
Exactly. It's more like, okay, I'm just repeating back what you mentioned to me, but you didn't, you wanted this. But here on the other side, I will say this on the flip side, it is finding somebody that you can trust and that because it's a connection, right? And it's a relationship. It's not, when you're spending that kind of money, and if your goals for the long haul, to be comfortable with that person, whoever it is, because it can happen where you could go out and if you have someone that really knows what they're doing, they're going to hone in on that right one. And you could say, wait a second, we just started this. I'm not ready, but they're weeding out all the ones that don't work and not even bothering you with. So that's what sometimes I do run into that. And if you haven't looked already and seen, it can be a challenge, and it's tough because it's like, well, shouldn't I look around? Well, you can look, but this is and
move
it's not to
fast. Yeah.
say, yeah, but well, if it's a good one, they go quick here. So it's not to say another opportunity won't come along. It will. I mean, but you do have, it's better to get out there and get educated. So when that they do come, you're ready, though, is I guess the point.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like the same in the residential space for, around here that if the person sees what is really the perfect home for them right away,
Right.
it's not ideal because they feel like, "Oh, I can't just buy the first one." Like, but that's the one, believe me, I've seen 300 others. This is the one you want,
Because you're looking at everything every day, seeing them. So when that special house comes along. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And that will
So,
change eventually. I think COVID's brought that because before you could go tour, right? You could go look at, how you could go for a weekend and not see all the inventory.
I
Now it's
know.
so far and few between. So, yeah.
So I think COVID had that effect on a lot of resort places because if you can work from anywhere, why do you want to work from a crappy little,
Yeah.
condo in the middle of nowhere? I mean, in the middle of downtown, someplace unpleasant, when you can be at the ocean every day and walk on the beach and have a really beautiful lifestyle, right?
And have that space, right? Everybody's, wants more space and than being in the cities or real close to your neighbor where the Cape Cod does offer that. It's outdoor living.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
So
Yeah, that's a beautiful phrase. I love that.
yeah, outdoor living, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of the homes that are set up for outdoor living, they attract some very high prices just because they really invested in that outdoor
Yeah.
space that's attractive, I think, to most people.
So you sort of inadvertently brought up another topic that we could talk about that I'd love to talk about with you, and that's buying a property that could use some beautification, some fixing up, some not staging, but like you say, adding a beautiful outdoor living area so that when people come, they can imagine themselves there. I mean, I'm not thinking that someone would want to like flip a $500,000 or $1 million property, but what opportunities are there for people to add equity and add value to their properties?
That's a great question. And again, it comes back to the beginning and that preliminary and having some vision too, and then knowing, or even not having vision, but we can take a look at it and see, okay, if you did X, Y, and Z, this is going to give you back. It's worth doing. You'll increase the equity instantly.
Yeah.
And then also the residuals. So there's a lot of opportunity for that here on the Cape because the Cape is older. We're a little bit more behind the times here. I work so much like, especially I'll say the New Yorkers, and they're awesome. But they're just it's a different world in New York in the city, and they just come in and they're just like, "Okay, what's these fees and what's this and what's that?" And it's like, "Look, we're like in another world. We're just so laid back." And it's interesting. But the homes are older too, for the most part. They're older. So they do need work. And if you can kind of look at that, 3, 4, 5, $6 million homes need work. So it just depends. So there's a lot of opportunity for somebody that is willing to do some projects. And I will share this, like with our rentals, all of them we stage. Our homes we stage too. It's
Yeah.
amazing. We have a stager on board that just works for us, and we go in and we even do projects before they go to market so we can get our homeowners more money. Just make changes, rearrange rentals always. So
Yeah.
it's amazing what it can change you, as you know, when you just make a few tweaks and then there's real projects. But
Right,
yeah,
it's true. Some cosmetic tweaks can make a gigantic difference because people don't always have most people,
they
I
don't
would say,
have the
don't have
vision.
the vision, right?
They don't.
What if this room wasn't, this ugly
Hmm.
shade of Pepto-Bismol pink? Like, believe
Hmm.
me, it would look right? I mean, what if this wasn't green? What if this wasn't whatever, right? And just that small change.
Hmm. Just even moving furniture around that they
Yeah.
have, because it's how we live and how we sell are so different. I say that all the time to people. This is perfect the way you have it. It's your comfortability. But what's our goal here? Sell it fast, get top dollar. So do you mind? Let's rearrange some furniture. And it's just a transformation that's what I love, actually. It's so
Yeah.
fun and to see that come together for anyone really.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, and even the
it's great.
clutter, right? Even the
Oh, the
clutter
clutter.
aspect.
Oh, the clutter. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our stuff, right? We all have our
Right.
stuff. And we love our stuff, and our stuff's great, but we got to sometimes find a home for it, or we're collectors of
Yeah, you just
stuff
get well, and plus
as
we're being
humans.
it's like an avalanche too. You're being, as fast as you're recycling things, they're coming through the door like,
Yeah.
"No."
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, but you're right. That's the huge, huge one. The declutter is probably the top one right there alone. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a huge difference, absolutely.
Mhm.
So Tia, what advice would you give to people who are thinking that they would like to buy in Cape Cod or in any resort type, seaside community?
Find somebody you like, that you trust, and have a preliminary conversation, because I'm of mindset that not everybody's the same. Not everybody's budget, not what they want. And look, when you're investing in a property, you probably want to use that property as well. So you want something that you're happy with too, that you can enjoy, that you can come. And that's the other fun piece of it is I love, I stay connected to my clients as best I can, and most of them, and they're always so happy. It's just the quality of life. You're changing people's lives. They spend more time together with their family, with their friends. They have memories and do things they never would have done. And that's an important piece of this as well as to also grow your investment portfolio and make some money and use real estate as a tool to leverage that, but and have fun with it too. So and we're all different. So it's real hard to answer, like, and we're all different as humans, what we want, what we enjoy, what we like. So it is worth a conversation to just kind of start exploring that. And like you're asking me questions, Chris, that person's going to ask them questions, get to know them, get to see
Right.
what they like, where they want to be. Let's weigh out where you can get the most money for your investment, and look at the long term as well. How
Yeah.
long do you want to keep it? So a lot of people have memories, right? They come here. Have you ever been to the Cape, by the way?
I have been many times.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. All right. Good. 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 So there's like a lot of like we hear this all the time. There's so many memories of a certain specific place where they used to go for an ice cream or go to the penny candy store or go to the beach. Like we all have these memories that we're fond, that stay in our brains, right? So I would encourage those that have always said, "Yeah, I really want a house on the Cape," or whatever it is. Just keep an open mind, because where you had those, not to say that you can't have them where you had it before, but there's so many cool places here that you wouldn't even know existed. So, because sometimes you hear that, well, I want to be in this town, this village, because that's where they remember, and that's a
Right.
great village. But because there's no inventory. So it
Right.
just broadens where you could be. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they're all special though. There's no right or wrong. There really are. But in the areas we're talking about, they're all so special. Yeah.
Oh, it's true. Every town, they're just cute little shops and little places to wander around, the beautiful
Yeah.
town centers where you can just
Yeah.
relax on the grass. And I mean, I have a lot of more as an adult. I didn't go to the Cape as a kid, but as an adult, I've made a lot of wonderful, treks there and enjoy it very much.
But it's funny because I go to different places all the time. There's like a couple houses on the street. You wouldn't even know the street's there. And it's just like it's just so fun to explore and see. It keeps it interesting. So
Yeah.
you don't ever know everything or every place. But
Yeah, it's
yeah.
true. Sure
Yeah.
you've seen a lot of changes in those 20 years.
No, drastically. Yeah. Haven't we all though? I think everywhere we're
It's
evolved.
true.
But yeah.
It's true.
Oh.
So Tia, if people feel that the Cape might be the right place for them, how can they reach out to you? How can they get in touch with you?
I would encourage them to just to keep it simple to go to our website at propertycapecod.com. We do have a podcast menu there, and there's a lot of offers that go more into detail about what we talked about today as well. And there's also a spot where they could book time, we can talk, or I'm very open. You'll see my information there as well, and you're just happy to pick up the phone and call too. So, but that's the
Oh, how
easy
nice.
propertycapecod.com. Yeah.
Okay,
So
super. Well, we'll put that in the show notes. And listeners, if you know somebody who lives in Massachusetts or somebody who loves the Cape or loves the idea of a seaside home in a beautiful location with lots of quaint, cute, adorable streets and towns, uh, absolutely forward this episode to them so that they can hear all of Tia's wisdom. And actually, if they're thinking of purchasing in any seaside community, they should listen to Tia because she's got a lot of excellent tips. And make sure that you come and join us next week. Tia, thank you so much for being with us. I really appreciate all your wisdom.
thanks for having me, Chris. It was great.